So the reason I ended up going to Israel is because my parents had gone there on vacation, some kind of tour, for like 10 days. And Israel is it's a really beautiful country, and it's a profound experience when you go there. And so my dad came back, and one place he had stayed on is something called the kibbutz. Well, kibbutz is like a collective farm, and where they all just sit there and they work on these farms. And I think it's kind of how Israel got going when they took over in, I think, 47, 48 when they came in. They've got these communes, and the place I stayed I was on two of them, and the first one was En Harod, and the other one was Kibbutz Naram, not Narim, Naram, down in the south. So at any rate, when I arrived in Israel, I flew there with a suit on. So I had a full suit. I probably had a tie, because that's the way I'd always flown my entire life. It was a dress-up event. I mean, you were on a plane. So when I was a little kid, everybody got dressed up. I mean, I was a little kid and flew out to Massachusetts. We had a suit. I had a suit on, and so this was kind of the remnants of that, I guess. Never been out of the country, and so I'd never been out of the country. And my father says, when he comes back, he says, we stayed on this kibbutz, and you could go there and stay on these kibbutz and study Hebrew. Well, my mother could have killed him. I mean, just what are you telling him about this for? I don't want him going to Israel. So I said, sounds pretty good for me. So I went down to Detroit, and I said, I want to go to a kibbutz, but I won't go if I can't be on the Alpan, so I can get something out of this and study Hebrew. Well, anyway, by the time I got there, man, the Jews, okay, they didn't want any Christian boy in their Alpan, their language study. But that's another story. So when I arrived in Israel, I got my suit on. I'm sitting there, and they take me coming down off the stairs, and I was in Tel Aviv. So they pulled me aside. So I'm like, okay, I'll come in here. I had my like briefcase, I mean, I was not a savvy traveler like I am now. So this is my first big trip anywhere. I never left the country. So I go in there and I sit down, and this guard has got a machine gun, Uzi machine gun, pointing right at my head. And I'm like, really just, what's going on here? I was frightened out of my mind. I thought for sure, they were going to shoot me. I really was. I thought they were going to execute me right here, because they pulled me into this little trailer over to the side. So they said, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to go on a kibbutz. They said, what kibbutz? And I told them, En Harod, And they said, do you have any information about this or anything? They thought I was a terrorist, because who is going to show up in a suit in Israel, man? So I'm sitting there, and I'm scared out of my mind, and I said, well, my papers are in that case, and I pointed to it. Like, I'm not reaching for anything here. I'm like going, yeah, I can go home. Please, anything, just let me get out of here. This was a mistake. A terrible mistake. Just put me on the plane. Just send me right back. How stupid was I to come here? So they said, okay, go ahead. And I opened it up, and I reached in it. I'm waiting to get my head blown off any second. No kidding. And I mean, at the time, I must have been, I was just before, I was 20 when I arrived there. So I pull that out, and I show it to him, and he looks at it, and sure enough, it says, En Harod, you're on the Alpan. And I was in there about, 5 minutes, maybe more. It felt like 5 years. And I was sweating, it was hot, I arrived there in October. And anyway, so he sat there, and he kind of looked through everything, and he says, okay, you can go. And I was like, okay. And like, was they going to still shoot me here? And so I took my little ticket and everything else in my bag, and I left. And that was my arrival in Israel. Very, very scary.